Good Tuesday morning, everyone. Welcome back to Weather on the Go, all your weather coverage. In today's video, I will be covering that high impact winter storm affecting us starting today, going all the way through Friday, February 24th. We're going to be looking region by region at the snowstorm, ice storm, and severe weather impacts from this storm. And then another storm is possible into next week with more rainfall and possibly a northeast snowstorm. We'll be taking a look at that later on in this video. If you guys don't know, the countdown is still on to my 1 year of being on YouTube. We're down to 8 days now. That is on March 1st of 2023. So if you want to support the channel, hit the subscribe button down below and also hit the subscribe button to get all of my daily weather forecast updates each and every morning at 9 a.m. on this channel. We're almost to 23,000 subscribers. Thanks to all the new subscribers out there. I definitely appreciate it. But looking out the door here this morning, we are seeing some cold temperatures up here again across the upper Midwest and all of southern Canada here. We're waking up below zero up here into Saskatchewan, Manitoba, Ontario, and Quebec, Canada, but also across places here into the Dakotas and Minnesota. And these wind chill values this morning are well below zero as well. As we zoom in here up across the upper Midwest and the northern plains, you can see through the eastern Dakotas into Minnesota here, we have double-digit below zero wind chills this morning, down near 20 below, if not 25 below zero in some of these areas as we go through the morning hours this morning. So definitely bundle up if you do live up in this neck of the woods. But we are watching our next major winter storm, and this will be a high-impact event going in towards this week. We're starting to see the beginning signs of that across the Pacific Northwest this morning. That will be spreading some higher elevation snows across the northern Rockies and the Pacific Northwest throughout the day today. A little wing of precipitation could be stretching out across the Dakotas into western Minnesota this afternoon with some snowfall, but this is just the beginning of what could be a very snowy week up across the upper Midwest. But if you guys here are with me on the video, don't forget to press that like button. It's the thumbs up button down below the video. It helps to get all of this weather information out to as many people as possible, so we'll get the word out here and let's get more people on this video because we have lots of impacts here. Look at these colors across the west. We have winter storm warnings in the pink, winter storm watches in these teal shaded colors. That actually extends over into upstate New England. We also have blizzard warnings into eastern South Dakota, southwestern Minnesota here into portions of southern Wyoming and northeastern Montana as well. And then wind alerts with wind advisories, high wind warnings, even some red flag warnings down here across the panhandle of Texas and Oklahoma and even northeastern New Mexico. So just so many alerts from this massive storm as it stretches state by state. And looking at the setup synoptically with this system early this week, you do see that trough, that bowling ball type of trough digging down across the Pacific Northwest this afternoon. We got another trough underneath that across the northwestern Mexico, and these are going to phase together and make one massive trough across the west with a southeast ridge across the east. So that's going to set up a very narrow zone of a temperature gradient, and this is going to have a lot of upper level support as well. That very strong upper level jet streak is going to be moving across the middle of the country. And whenever you see a strong jet stream like this, you know you were talking about a massive high impact storm on your hands. So looking at the high temperatures this afternoon, it's going to be cold up to the north. We already have a snowpack up here across the upper Midwest and southern Canada, but down to the south where there's no snowpack, it will be easier to warm up. So we'll be in the 50s, 60s, if not the 70s down here across Texas, Oklahoma, Arkansas, Louisiana, and farther east toward the Carolinas and even Florida here this afternoon. Going into Wednesday afternoon now, you start to see that temperature gradient start to move farther north, and you see, look at the wide difference in temperatures. Central Illinois, we could be in the low 60s Wednesday afternoon, but northern Illinois near the Rockford area, Dubuque, Iowa, or even Chicago, Illinois, could only be in the lower 30s. So definitely about a 30 to 40 degree temperature swing with a couple hundred miles there in Illinois. And look at all those below zero temperatures to the northwest on Wednesday. That will carry carry us into Wednesday night. But look at these wind chills, though. Going through the day on Wednesday, we'll see 20 to 30 below zero wind chills up here across the Dakotas, western Minnesota, getting as far south as northwestern Nebraska and much of the Intermountain West. And then same thing holds true on Thursday. That cold front will move farther off to the east with 60s and 70s across the eastern two-thirds of the country. And then those double-digit below zero high temperatures across Nebraska, especially to the Dakotas, northern portions of Minnesota, and then back west across Montana and Wyoming, and all of southern Canada. And those wind chill values will be very brutal as well. 30 to 35 below with the wind chills up here across the Dakotas, northern Nebraska, getting into Minnesota and portions of the Pacific Northwest, and all of southern Canada Thursday afternoon. And it's going to be windy as well. Over at least the next 24 hours, some of these maximum wind gusts could be up near 60, 70, 80 miles per hour, especially down here into Southern California, Arizona, getting into southern Utah, southern Nevada near the Las Vegas region, and stretching over here across Wyoming as well. So definitely hang on to the hats out there. It's going to be very windy with this major storm system. So looking at the precipitation output now, around the noon time frame today, we'll see some higher elevation snow across the Pacific Northwest. That will stretch eastward across the Dakotas and western portions of Minnesota. Some of this will initially probably not reach the ground at first with the drier air mass out ahead of the storm, but it will start to reach the ground later on in the afternoon as a frontogenesis type of snow band sets up farther east across far northern Iowa, central Wisconsin, and the western Michigan. Could have a couple of inches of snow there, but it's all heavy snow back across the Salt Lake City area into portions of Nevada and Wyoming this evening. Then that carries over into 6 o'clock in the morning on Wednesday with more precipitation moving up from the south, with that trough here into northwestern Mexico moving northward, and then that trough moving in from the Pacific Northwest phasing together. We have more heavy snow out here to the west on Wednesday morning. So getting over the next 24 hours, total snowfall accumulation from now through Wednesday, a few inches of snow up here across North Dakota, parts of South Dakota, and central portions of Minnesota. That stretches over into northern and central Wisconsin, but it's all heavy snow with feet of snow across portions of the higher elevations here of the Rockies over the next 24 hours. By the time we get into the midday hours on Wednesday, now we're starting to introduce the snow across the Dakotas, Minnesota, Wisconsin, and northern Iowa here, and even Nebraska. But we have to watch these colors across Iowa, southern Wisconsin, northern Illinois, and then stretching over into southern lower Michigan for a major ice storm possible with some damaging and even crippling ice as we get through the day on Wednesday. Farther south, some severe weather with some heavy rainfall as well through the Missouri Valley and Illinois Valley as well. That will push farther east. And look at these darker blues showing up. Very heavy snowfall rates, probably over 2 inches per hour at times through Wednesday evening. And then that will carry over into Thursday morning, and that will stretch even farther east with the ice and snow as we get in towards portions of the Northeast. That I-95 corridor is going to be tricky. We could have a wintry mix of precipitation across some of those areas. So looking at the total snowfall accumulation from now through the entirety of the event, going all the way through Friday, the February 24th, across the upper Midwest here, there will be locations that see up to 2 feet of snow, and then that stretches over to the Northeast with some heavy accumulations as well. So going region by region, starting in the northern plains and upper Midwest, across southern North Dakota, much of South Dakota, and then stretching over toward the Twin Cities here, Rochester, Minnesota, and towards western Wisconsin. A good swath of 12 to 18 inches worth of snow, and there could be pockets in here, especially into eastern South Dakota and southern Minnesota, that do reach over 2 feet of snow, approaching 30 inches at times. So that will be something to watch out for. Moving farther east across central Wisconsin, a couple of areas could be seeing up to 2 feet of snow. Prairie du Chien over there toward Madison, and then the Milwaukee area will be tricky. You're right on that line of where we could see 6 inches or more, and then farther north here, the heaviest of the snow with double-digit snowfall amounts. And then farther south, we're talking about the ice threat across this region. Some of that heavy snow will be stretching farther east into northern Michigan as well. And then parts of the Northeast, southeastern Canada, will see our fair share of snow with double-digit totals over here, with a couple of areas getting up to a foot of snow, especially on the Canadian side of this area into Quebec as we get through that Friday time frame. Now we're going to be talking about the total ice accumulation, because this could be be damaging, if not crippling, of an ice storm across the middle of the country here on Wednesday and Thursday, and then that stretches across the Northeast on Friday. You definitely see it's going to be a narrow zone, but wherever that does set up, we could be seeing some areas over a quarter of an inch and approaching a half an inch of ice. Again, this does show 2 inches of ice. Most of this is contaminated probably by sleet, so do not take these numbers to fruition, but it does look like a good quarter to half an inch of ice will be setting up from western portions of Iowa here through eastern Iowa, southern Wisconsin, northern Illinois, especially near Highway 20 up here in northern Illinois, and portions there of Wisconsin near the Illinois state line, and then getting farther east toward Detroit, a more crippling ice storm likely here, and then that stretches across the Toronto area and then into portions of New York State, western Massachusetts, and portions of Vermont and New Hampshire. Some of these areas we could be talking about a quarter to up to a half an inch of ice at times as well. So that will be something to watch getting through the middle and late portion of this week. This will be a high impact event. We have lots of red, lots of purples up here. I don't remember the last time I've seen a purple and extreme impact, but this is going to be up there toward the Twin Cities and central and southern Minnesota through this week. Widespread major impacts from Wisconsin back through Minnesota and the Dakotas as well. So that is going to be a high impact winter storm. But then we look on the southern side of the storm now through the day on Wednesday. The Storm Prediction Center has upgraded back to a slight risk of severe weather through central portions of Missouri, far western Illinois, and then down into portions of eastern Oklahoma, northwestern Arkansas, getting through the day on Wednesday. And looking at the probabilities here of the severe hazards, it does look like a 2% shading of tornadoes through central Missouri, down through portions of Oklahoma, southeastern Kansas, northwestern Arkansas, and then getting into North Texas near the Red River. It does look like a lower end threat for damaging winds up to 60 miles per hour, and then even a lower end threat from there to maybe some quarter-size hail across portions of the Missouri Valley down toward the Red River here in North Texas on Wednesday. Looking at that setup, the dew points will be rising into the 50s and 60s from the Gulf of Mexico all the way up into central Illinois, northern Missouri on Wednesday afternoon and evening. We also do have the kinematics with this system. The mid and low level jets will be there rounding the base of this trough. We have a pretty powerful mid-level jet with such a major system and a little bit of a low-level jet as well. It's not the strongest low-level jet we have ever seen, but it does look like it will support at least a low-end tornado risk, and you can see that as early as 6 o'clock in the morning on Wednesday, we'll start to see a broken line of storms from portions of Kansas, western portions there of Missouri near the Kansas City region, down toward the Oklahoma City, Tulsa area, and then even just west of Dallas-Fort Worth at 6 o'clock on Wednesday. That will propagate east-northeastward through the Missouri Valley, northwestern Arkansas, so the portions there of the Fayetteville area getting in towards northwestern side of Little Rock, and then down towards Texarkana by noon time frame on Wednesday, and then pushing farther east into the western Ohio Valley and towards places like Indianapolis, eastern Illinois, getting down toward the Paducah, Kentucky area, and Cape Girardeau, Missouri by the time we get to 6 o'clock on Wednesday evening. Again, this is going to be a fast-moving line of storms, so the residence time is going to be very short-lived, so this is not going to be posing much of a flooding risk, but these storms will be dropping some heavy rainfall as they move through, so definitely some 1 to 2 inch per hour rainfall rates at times. But again, luckily this will be more progressive in nature going through that time frame, and it looks like on Wednesday we're going to see a flash flood potential here, especially in the north central Illinois, including the Chicago area, Peoria, Illinois, getting back there towards the Kirksville, Missouri area, and then on up into northern portions of Indiana with that slight risk for flash flooding. But that flash flooding threat is marginal down here across the Joplin, Missouri area, Tulsa, and the eastern side of Oklahoma City through the day on Wednesday. Briefly looking at the long-range forecast toward the very end of this month into the first full week in March, it does look like the pattern will reload yet again with another southeast ridge still remaining intact across the southeast here. And then another trough digging in off the west coast. That does promise more active weather to end the month and especially get into early March here into that first week in March, not only for California, but much of the northern and northeastern United States. But under that into Texas and the Gulf Coast, it does look predominantly drier into that first week in March. But it does look like a system will be moving through during the early portion of next week on Monday, February 27th. This primarily will be more rain again because of that south southeast ridge. We're not going to have a chance to see a lot of that cold air move south. There could be another ice storm threat farther up to the north here. We'll have to watch somewhere across the Midwest or the Great Lakes region on Monday, and then more of a snowstorm possibly into portions of interior New England from Maine through Vermont, New Hampshire, and upstate New York as we get into that Tuesday, February 28th time frame. And again, more heavy rain across the I-95 corridor down to New Jersey, New York City, and Boston. With the warmer temperatures off the Atlantic Ocean, we're not going to have a chance to see much of that cold air moving farther south. And you do see off the West Coast yet another storm system moving in to end the month here of February, and this will take us into early March across much of the West Coast. Well, to recap my weather forecast for you guys, a high impact winter storm from today through Friday. We looked at the snowstorm, ice storm, and severe weather potential region by region. Definitely a high impact event. And then another storm system next week with more rain and a snowstorm side as well across the Northeast, getting towards the end of February and into early March. Well, thank you guys so much for watching. I definitely appreciate it. If you guys liked the video, press the thumbs up down below. Leave any comments, questions, and concerns below. I'll get to those later on today. Subscribe to the YouTube channel if you're new, and hit the notification bell to get all of my daily weather forecast updates on this channel. Have a great Tuesday, everybody. A great rest of your week, and I will see you all in the next video.